So I'm working on a new back brace design, and I kind of wanted to point out some of the things that I've done as compared to the old one, and kind of go over back braces in general, and so that you guys can go about designing your own and kind of learn from my mistakes. So first and foremost, I've increased the size of the aluminum I use. 0.08 is perfectly fine. The ones I am using now are 0.1 aluminum 5052, and one of the things I noticed is that this back plate gets hot. Like you just get warm running around in costume, and the back or the wings themselves are kind of heavy, and so they're a big old pain in the rear. And I wanted to try and get some vents in here, and that's part of the reason I upped it to 0.1. And is because I needed that extra stability, because the more holes you cut in the back brace, the less stable the aluminum becomes. It gives it more points where it can bend. So that is no bueno. The downside is definitely like bending it. I mean, I got the curve pretty good, but you can see kind of how like there's 2 points really where it bent more than in like an even curve. And if you look where that point, like, I'm trying to center it here, that this bend point lines up with that hole, and this bend point down here is bending with this cut. And that's what I'm saying, is like the more holes you have, that's where it's going to be weak, is where those holes are. The more holes you put in, the weaker it is, but again, like at this point, it's pretty sturdy, and it's going to hold up to the 12-foot wings that these are for. And then this just increases ventilation so that hopefully they're not as warm. The next thing that I have done, if you kind of look between this point and this point, one of the things I've been having happen is as the bar pivots around here, it was hitting these bolts. Now, originally, like, you want these kind of like as close as possible to the pivot point, in that it creates greater stability and you're not going to bend your aluminum, so on and so forth. However, like, there is a point where it binds and you're not really giving yourself increased stability. So I moved these back a little bit to increase the space here, so that there's a little more space for it to pivot. The other thing you'll notice is that this hole and these bolts are no longer centered. My old braces, that hole would be here, basically, and I've moved it over, or maybe I moved these over, it doesn't matter. Basically, these are no longer in line with this, and what that means is, like, when this bar pivots down, it has more space, because it kept hitting, like, certain designs would hit this bolt when it was farther over and in line with this hole. So I've just moved it over that little skosh, and that's enough. That's by the same point, like, I never had a problem with it hitting this upper bolt, but and like this one never hit this upper bolt, but like this lower bolt from this hole and this lower bolt from this hole were a problem. So this bolt used to be over here, and the bottom bar kept binding against this bolt, so this bolt is farther over. So like the bar goes to either side a little bit here, and so it has just a slight angle when bent. That's as far as it can go, and in terms of my design, that's kind of what I want from it. So let's see, any other modifications? Oh, this thing at the top. So I noticed in a lot of pictures from the back, even in my corset brace, that you have this very mechanical straight line across the top of the brace, and it just doesn't look, it's clearly the back brace, and by adding just this little whoop, it kind of follows, like the feathers are going to be covering all of this, and there's a dip in between the feathers to show your skin or your costume or whatever, to try and just create that additional illusion that these are real wings. And I mean, it's a tiny little nitpicky thing to have this dip and kind of blend into the feathers of the wings. I'll try and assemble one here and kind of show you what I mean. But yeah, so I added that, and I'm kind of hoping that that helps out a little bit. The straps, let's see, so now the bolts moved over. You can see, like, it's no longer in the middle of this bar. These are moved over this way. And there's very little extra of this brace showing past this standoff. So, you know, it's not out to here anymore, which is great. It kind of slims down the whole line of it and makes it easier to hide. And then these straps, while a larger pain in the butt to get in, are now a little more hidden and easier to, like, there's just not as much back brace to try and fool around with your costume. And I think that that's pretty much all of it. So anyway, while you guys are designing your back braces, I hope that helps. And I'll let you guys know if I make any other design changes as I go along and continue to improve my designs.